Hello and welcome to this edition of the Business Spotlight interview. Today it is my great pleasure to have Aiden Flynn, the CEO of Exploristics, here with me today. Aiden, how are you?
I'm very well, Richard. Thanks, and great to be here.
Good to have you. Why don't you share with us who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm a statistician by training. Been working in the pharmaceutical industry for 30 years or thereabouts. Um, so I've always worked in clinical trial design, the analysis and reporting of clinical trials. Working out whether new drugs or new devices or new diagnostics, have some utility in real world use. I set up Exploristics 15 years ago now, and we're based in Belfast, and we continue to do that statistical consultancy.
Fantastic. So, who's your ideal customer then? Is it the big pharma?
It's a mix, Richard. So we do work with the biggest pharma companies. So three of the top 10 pharma are clients of ours. And quite a lot of our revenue comes from those big pharma. But I would say most of our client base would be small biotech companies who typically don't have any in-house statistics support. So we provide all of that stat support for them.
Fantastic. So, on this business journey, what's been your biggest learning, Aiden?
That's a good question, and it depends when you ask, Richard. But
Yeah.
I suppose it's a roller coaster, and any founder of a business will probably say the same thing, that within a day you can go from elation to the depths of despair. So it's that, and that can be quite sort of emotional and stressful and draining, but also exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing is, you can think about strategy and all of that sort of stuff, but so many of the decisions that you make are based on cash. Do you have money in the bank? And that's what you look at first. So it's this cash is king type thing. And that drives a lot of your behaviors and your decisions.
Yeah, totally. And many of the people that I have interviewed in the past have said, yeah, cash flow is the be all and end all.
Yep.
So when you were growing up, Aiden, is this something that you always wanted to do, run your own business?
No, I can't say it is, Richard. I come from a small village in the middle of County Down, very much kind of working class. I was the only person in my family to go to university, so I just didn't have the visibility, and I wasn't surrounded by people who had the visibility as to what was out there.
Yes.
Um, so the truth is, I ended up here through a series of just fortuitous events, or reactions maybe to things that I didn't like, so that made
Yeah.
me go and look for something else. So, and certainly I didn't set out to be this. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've done very well anyway. And you obviously in Exploristics have a defined goal and know where you're going from what you've told me so far. What have been the biggest issues that you've overcome on that journey?
Yeah, a good question. I think what's a real challenge for any founder is, and as you grow as a business, it's moving from that startup to scale up,
Yeah.
where you have to think about process and you have to think about systems, and then you have to think about sales and marketing and all of that stuff. And I think for many founders, and myself included, that very much takes you out of your comfort zone. You're moving into a space that you don't know.
Yeah.
You probably don't enjoy that much because you like the excitement and the innovation and the being involved in everything, and you have to move to a place where you can't be involved.
Yeah.
because you become the bottleneck. I think
Precisely.
that for me has been that's been a more difficult sort of transition.
So it's fantastic that you actually brought that up, because that's one of the things that we would do with businesses, is very much get them from the chaos of the startup to getting to the systems and the processes that are in place, so that the person like yourself, the business owner, can actually take a step back and work on the business and where it's going, rather than being the hamster in the wheel in the business all the time.
Yep.
So that's really pertinent what you described there. Thanks.
And it's
And
hard. It's hard to step back because
yeah,
quite often you know what the answer is, and you just want to tell somebody, look, this this is the way to do it,
yeah,
rather than wait for them to kind of work it out for themselves.
yeah. So on that, what have you learned about yourself that you can pull back from being that superhero and jumping in?
Well, yeah, you have to wear a lot of hats for sure. And as I mentioned, it's a bit of a roller coaster. So I suppose I've learned that I'm pretty resilient. You know, I can I can take the knockbacks and get back up again, and just keep moving on. I suppose I can be incredibly focused when I need to,
Yes,
and just get things done. So it's
fantastic.
that resilience and that focus and that drive and energy. Yeah, that's something I've learned about myself. And as you kind of go into a journey like this, you really have no idea what it takes.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic shares. Look, who inspires you in business? Is there anybody that you look up to, or
I'm not really somebody who picks out people or follows people or
yeah,
anything like that. But I suppose there are categories of people that I really admire, and one is those founders who've been able to go through that scale up journey and remained in the business and have remained maybe as the CEO or at least as a very important figure in it. That's impressive. And if they have been able to do that whilst remaining true to their values and their vision, again, that's also really impressive. So I am inspired by people like that. And then I suppose the last bit, and I say this because I think they get a bit of a bad rap sometimes, which is young people. I just love the enthusiasm, and they care about stuff, and and that really energizes me. We've got lots of young people working in our Belfast office, and I just love going there because I get energized by it.
sure, fantastic. And you mentioned there about getting energized by them, the young folks in the Belfast site. Um, are you sort of self-energized or self-motivated, or do you like dip into books and dip into podcasts for some motivation? Or
I don't look to books for motivation. I mean, I read and listen to podcasts purely for recreational purposes, to try and get away from stuff or to relax.
yes, yeah,
Um, but I would say I am somebody who listens to people and learns through kind of observations, and just all of those everyday interactions from people. So that's where I learn really.
fantastic, fantastic. And who better to learn from than your fellow humans? And
Exactly.
you know, a very dear friend of mine loves to people watch,
Yep.
and learns so much from that.
Well,
You
and,
know,
and see how people react.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can pick up so much by seeing how they react to what you say or how you behave
yeah,
or whatever, and then you need to adjust your own approach, to
yeah.
I guess to make them feel more comfortable. But that, I think any good salesperson is should be able to do that.
Very good. So, Aiden, what does the future look like, both for yourself, for Exploristics, And what do you see as the biggest challenges out there?
Uh, the future is we continue to keep growing. I mean, I'm not somebody who wants to build an empire particularly, but I will explain what that means. I want to remain, focused on what we do as a company,
Yeah.
in terms of that statistical consultancy, and I want to be excellent at that. Which means I don't want to, have lots of bolt-on um, kind of bits to the business that might be kind of supplementary, so it's really excelling at what we do and continuing to grow that. I really like the idea of, developing young people and having an academy, and Belfast is certainly a place that we want to do that in. Challenges. The last few years, within the pharmaceutical industry, it's been hard.
Mm.
It's been hard because a lot of money flowed into the industry around the time of COVID.
Course.
And then I think there were some casualties of that. Like companies were raising money and they really had nothing, and
Yeah.
so I think a lot of investors got burned because of that. So
Yes.
we have been going through a major contraction in the pharmaceutical industry, and that's been hard to manage. We as a company have been lucky in that we've continued to grow through
Right
that,
on.
although rate of growth has slowed. So I'm hopeful that we're now getting back to something like normality, which was before COVID. And we'll be able to kind of get back to the sort of trajectory that we were on before.
Fantastic. Yeah, every best wish for that. So, Aidan, what would you say to any young person or maybe an older person who's thinking about going into business for themselves nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, the short thing is you will never know unless you give it a go, so it's always worth a try. And what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
It fails. And if it does, you go back to your old job or go and find another job. That's kind of the worst thing. And as long as you haven't taken too many risks in doing that, that doesn't feel like a major risk to me. But I would say beyond that, it's about going in with your eyes open.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to set up and run a business, if you don't understand the market you're operating in. That seems like a very obvious thing to say, but you've got to really understand the market. You've got to have a network in that market. Again, it's very difficult, because it's very difficult to set that up from scratch. Because in those early days, people are buying from you. They're not
Yeah.
buying from anybody else. It's you they're buying from. And if you don't have that network, and if you don't have that knowledge of your market, I would say it's very, very hard. And I think you really need to ask yourself the question as to whether you've got a viable business or not. And it's just doing some pretty basic homework. What would people pay for the service that you're about to offer or the product that you're about to offer? How much of that are you going to realistically be able to sell? And is that going to allow you to live in the way that you need to,
Yeah. Very good advice. Great sharing. So, as we sort of come to a conclusion of our great time together and all of those nuggets of wisdom, what's the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old Aiden if you had the magic power of winding that clock back?
Yeah. I've only really had three jobs, Richard, and they've all lasted a fairly long time, over a 30 odd year career. So there were some decisions I made along that journey, and decisions that I'd been thinking about a long time before I actually made them.
Yeah, yeah.
So So looking back, I wish I'd taken the decision earlier,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
So I would say that to my 18-year-old self is, to be brave, follow your instinct, have that a bit more confidence
Yes.
about making that decision, and make it early, because I could have achieved so much more if I'd just done things earlier.
Excellent. Great. Well, Ian, we can't turn the clock back, but we can obviously look to the future and see that it looks very bright for yourself, the Exploristics team, and be very interested to hear how you continue to grow, especially with the footprint here in Belfast and the academy you were mentioning. So that sounds great. Look, many thanks again for giving your time and your wisdom to our community, and we wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
You're welcome.